Meet UV, the new powerhouse in Python project management. This modern package and dependency manager is not just fast, it's blazing fast. Say goodbye to juggling poetry, requirements.txt, and even pyenv, because UV does it all. Finally, one tool to rule them all. In this video, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to get started with UV and why it might just become your new favorite Python tool. Ready? Let's go! First things first, let's get UV up and running. You can install it using curl, pip, or even PowerShell if you're on Windows. For my machine, I'm going to pick curl. There you go, it's installed. Once UV is installed, let's jump in and create a new project. Just like poetry, we run the init command. And just like that, we have a pyproject.toml file. This neatly organizes every single dependency of your project. It also contains the Python version, which in my case is set to 3.8. But we'll fix that later. Let's add some dependencies and watch how UV handles this like a pro. There you go, typer is added as dependency. We can see it listed in the dependencies in the pyproject.toml file. Adding dev dependencies can be done with the dev flag. For example, let's add pytest to our dependencies. And we can see that it's added as dev dependency. Before we go further, let's add a very small, simple test case. I'm going to add a test directory and a test.main file. And in there, I'm just going to do something really simple, which is assert true. Now, running pytest within our environment can be done by running uv run pytest. And there you go, it executed the test. We can see that by adding a dependency, UV created a venv folder for us. This contains all the dependencies and your Python version. It also created the uv.log file, which contains all your dependencies cross-platform compatible. Now here's a bit of magic. UV is so fast that it allows you to create your dependencies in the pyproject.toml file yourself. For example, let's add requests, which is nothing new. Poetry also does this. Let's import requests here. And now you might think that I have to install the dependencies first and then run the test. And you might be right if you were running poetry. But UV is so blazing fast, when you run a command, like uv run pytest, UV automatically syncs everything, updating the log file, installing dependencies, and executing the command. All in about less than a second. That's amazing. Let's talk Python versions. UV initially picked Python 3.8 for my project. We can check that that's really the case by executing uv run Python version. And we see that it's actually running on Python 3.8. But I want the latest and greatest Python 3.12. Changing that is super easy. Let's open up our TOML file, change this to 3.12, and run uvsync. In one swift move, UV installs Python 3.12, updates the dependencies, linking it to the venv, and updates the log file. It's just as fast as everything else UV does. Now let's do a quick check if you really have Python 3.12 installed. And there we go. Time for a real test. Let's add some heavy hitters to our dependencies. For example, we can add Fast API and Jupyter and Pandas. Why not? Let's go. And it's done. It resolved all the dependencies and installed everything in just less than 2 seconds. That's absolutely amazing. Let's really check if it installed all the dependencies by running uv run Jupyter Lab. And it worked. It started up Jupyter Lab. All the dependencies are installed. Now here's another cool trick. Instead of adding every single dev dependency, UV lets you run standalone commands in a completely isolated environment with UV tool run. Or, because we developers are lazy, there's a UVX shortcut. It's perfect for quick tasks like formatting or linting your project using rough. We can do this easily by executing UV rough check. And there you go. It installed rough in a completely isolated environment and it linted my project. And of course it failed because I've imported requests and it's not being used. Formatting is also possible by UV rough format. There we go. Quick, clean, and no extra baggage in your venv or in your toml file. And there you have it, UV in action. From setting up projects, adding dependencies, and even adding Python versions, UV proves the ultimate tool to handle it all. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing and liking this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to add them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching and happy coding!